when I hear people saying, oh, it's all about the marketing, or like 90% of it is about marketing. It's not. I really don't think it is. I really think photography has got a lot to do with it. I mean, that makes sense, isn't it? That's what people are buying into. They're buying our photographs for sure. They've got to know about you. Yes, of course, I've established that. But people, and certainly my clients, come to me because of my photography. Well, so they tell me anyhow. So it's not all just about the marketing. Um, and when I work with my clients, I always say to them, okay, I don't just capture where you are now, I photograph where you want to be. And by saying that, by saying where they're going to be, I'm hopefully adding extra value into what they're to my service because I'm saying to them basically, look, I'm going to project with my images to your ideal client, to your ideal client base, to where your business wants to be, to what you've got in mind, to where you want to grow to. And that's what photography is really well positioned for. It's great for getting across ideas. When I started my journey as a photographer, quite a long time ago now, something like 30 years ago, I remember distinctly picking up the camera and thinking, this is exactly what I want to do for my career. This, from now on, I want to be a photographer. And that's what I did. I set out on my journey to do that, to achieve those aims. And and but I never really thought to myself, oh, I want to make loads of money out of this. I want to be, have a successful business. All I really wanted to do, and I still do to this day, is create good photography. And hopefully that idea resonates with you. Now, obviously, we want to get paid for what we do. If we're producing good photography and coming up with good ideas, and the two, in my mind, are very intrinsically linked. If we want to come up with that, we've got to get paid for it. There's a great book by Dr. Cal Newport, he's written other books as well. One in his most famous one is a book called Focus, but the one I'm referring to is a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. This book is a great read, and it's all about, as you can imagine, being the top of your craft and people finding out and coming to you because you're really good at what you do. For sure, in the last 20 years, photography has become much more democratic. The digital age has made it open to everybody. We all know that people have got phones and they're shooting with their phones, but I think personally that is a good thing. I think it's made people more aware of photography and how difficult it is to create a good image. People are much more informed about what a good photograph is because they've tried. Um, People are much more aware, I think, or have a fear of missing out. So when they see good photography, they want it. They say that is good photography. I want that my business to be seen as that. Certainly, that's the idea of creating a premium business. Now, I'd been thinking about this concept for a little while now, how ideas and good photography can lead to better clients and more consistent clients. But with my research, I couldn't really find anything out there that could back me up. So, what did I do? Of course, the only person I could think to speak to, person inverted commas, is ChatGPT. So, I went online and I asked a very simple question to ChatGPT: how can ideas lead to being a more successful photographer? And this is what it came up with. And I was quite surprised how positive its answers were. Maybe this is a chat GPT thing, I don't know. But basically, the importance of good ideas in brand photography. So when you're creating a unique brand identity, brand photography is not just about taking photographs. It's about telling a story that resonates with the target audience. By developing creative concepts, photographers can create images that reflect the essence of a brand, making it memorable and relatable. All good there. We go on further. ChatGPT says about connecting with an audience with your photography. Effective brand photography should be evoke emotions and create a connection. When photographers think outside the box, they can produce images that speak directly to the values and aspirations of their target market. Standing out in a competitive market. ChatGPT goes on to say, unique concepts and creative approaches can help a photographer establish a foothold in their market, attracting clients who are looking for something fresh and engaging. Building client loyalty. Good ideas lead to memorable images that clients want to share, which can enhance word of mouth marketing and referrals. And finally, when enhancing brand perception, good ideas translate into professional images that convey quality and professionalism, which can enhance the overall brand image and attract more customers. In summary, having good ideas in brand photography is essential for creating a unique identity, connecting with audiences, standing out in a competitive landscape, building client loyalty, and enhancing a brand perception. These elements are vital for a photographer's success in the industry. Well, there you go. Thank you, ChatGPT. So, again, this is a little bit repeating from the webinar the other day, but I've identified 3 areas where we can basically will help us come up with good ideas. First of all, being culturally engaged or aesthetically informed. And by this, as I talked about before, it's about being in touch with the world of media, photography, paintings, books, films, all these kind of things. A good knowledge of those will only help and give you better ideas. Creative thinking, the 5 R's I talked about, which again, these can be downloaded. And if you haven't managed to download it, do let me know. Put a little your email in the comments and I'll send it on to you. But the 5 R's of creative thinking that I've identified are research, the rules, repetition, reflection, and rest. And then finally, the third bit of this puzzle, as it were, is the technical toolkit, which we're going to unpack now. So here we go. Let's just dive straight into cameras, every photographer's favorite subject, except for mine. The thing about digital cameras is they're really all the same. Sure, the only thing that's different in my mind is the sensor size. And that is something that, yeah, it is important and will affect the quality of an image, is the size of the sensor. But I would imagine most of us are using full frame sensors, or even if you're really lucky, a medium format digital camera. But there's really only, as far as I've identified, 5 functions of a digital camera, well, any camera for that matter. So if you strip it back, get rid of all the bells and whistles that modern digital cameras will do, if you strip it back, there are only really 5 functions of a camera. These are the exposure triangle, of course, which is composed of the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter. The next place where you can have is a main function is the exposure. Are you going to underexpose? Are you going to overexpose? Make things lighter or darker? And finally, the 5th point that I've identified is the focal point. This is where you're going to get the camera to focus. Foreground, background, on a face, on a car, whatever it's going to be. So that is it. That's all cameras work in a very, very similar way. Lenses. Now, this is what I think does make a difference. Creative thinking and lenses. I shoot prime lenses. I've always shot prime lenses. And there's a reason for this. First of all, when I look at a scene, I know which lens I want. I know if I'm going to pick up a 24 mil or a 50 mil or a 105 mil, I know from where I'm standing exactly my field of view, how it's going to look. So already I pre-visualized it. So I know, okay, I want it to look a certain way. I will know I need to pick up the 35 mil lens. And I think with the zoom lens, if you use zoom lens, I think that's harder to do because there's much more, obviously, there's more choices. It's infinitely more choices to it. So the first reason that I choose using prime lenses is it helps me, helps my pre-visualization. Secondly, the practicality and performance. And by this, I mean how easy it is to use. I like prime lenses because they're light and they're small, generally speaking. And so that means a lot to me. It makes me a lot more maneuverable performance wise. And, after a long day of shooting, especially maybe, an all day shoot, you heavy lenses, I feel tired. I mean, I do use a zoom lens for when I'm doing events. I have a 70 to 200, and the reason I use that is because I'm at a fixed point, and sometimes I can't, you can't get close enough to the stage or to the speaker or wherever, and that is, that's when make that choice. But I do notice at the end of that day, my arms and shoulders, my body's killing because of the weight of that lens. Performance wise, I think, they are still prime lenses do tend to be a little bit faster and a little bit better quality, maybe. You know, I mean, there's a limit to it, but the practicality is more way into it. Planning. And what I mean by that is that when I go on a branding shoot, when I'm putting a branding shoot together, I'll I have, and I've got a little bit more about this coming up actually. I have a way of working where it's first of all I want to do a wide shot where basically this is the will tell this is the first part of the story. Um, and then so I'll put them on my 24 mm lens or my 35 mm lens, my wide lens, and that'll be the way I'm shooting. I'm thinking about doing this opening shot, this location based shot. This is the person in the location. Then I'll pick up when I think I've rinsed that and done as much as I can on that particular place, I'll pick up my 50 mm lens or maybe the 80, put more likely the 50, and I'll be working on my mid-range shots. These could be portraits from head upwards, with hands in as well. Probably the main bulk of the photo shoot would be with the mid-range 50 mm. And then finally, I'll pick up my longer lens, like a 105 mil, and I'll be doing details. I'll be looking at those little, hand gestures, all the little things that will add to the story. So, um, yeah, and I've got some examples of this as well. Um, Also, price. Yeah, I mean, price does come into it. I mean, you can put fit these days, and I sort of was going to mention this on the DSLRs. You can pick up some absolute bargains because everybody's going to mirrorless. And I tell a lot of my students these days to buy DSLRs that you can get for absolute bargains, like 500 quid for like a Canon EOS Mark 5 or a Nikon D750 in really good condition, which, a few years ago, they were the top of the range cameras. And consequently, the lenses I think you can get a cheaper. Um, a zoom lens tend to be more expensive. And there's my kit bag, my old bag, getting a bit worn out now. And you can see I've written on there all the different focal lengths, and I worked my way through the bag on the shoot. Keep things nice and simple. I'm not distracted. I get easily distracted, as you've probably noticed. I get easily distracted, and that helps me really keep in the zone, as it were. Yeah, I was doing this a couple of weeks ago. I was doing this interior shot of a new build, new offices, and they wanted loads of photographs, and it was a huge, great building, loads of photographs, and I used this very method um, to keep myself in a focused way and to make sure I covered it all. So I started off with the 24 mil, the wide shot. So I was going round the building, doing all my wide stuff. Once I was happy with that, I brought out the 50 mil. and I did my medium shots, people interacting, and sort of semi-details, not close up, but semi-details. And then I went around and I did all that using the 50. And then finally, I wrapped it up by doing the bit that I like doing the most, I must admit, or one of the bits I like doing the most, which is the details. All those little close-ups, those little very arty shots that go to help make up that visual narrative, that story. Another way I like to really look at lenses is on lens compression. So as opposed to thinking about the field of view, how much you see, I tend to like to think about how the lens compresses the image, the foreground and the background, how they come together. So for example, these were done in the studio, obviously, and I was using a wide angle lens, a 24mm lens. Oh, somebody coming in. Sorry. A 24mm lens, and the reason I chose this is because you can see it's like almost like a comedy lens, isn't it? The wide angle, but I wanted to put the foreground closer or bigger in scale than the background. So that's the reason why I use that lens, not because of the field of view, not from going from side to side, but from front to back. So I think that's a different way of looking at how you might use lenses. Going the other way, this is a real classic shot when you're putting together a branding shoot, and I'm sure you've all done it, where you've got people talking to each other. And this is a great place where you want lots of compression, where you want the background and foreground to be on a very similar sort of focal plane, to squash them together. And, depending on the room you've got available, the 105mm lens is really perfect for this, or a longer lens. And you can see the way it does. You see it used a lot in movies. In fact, there's a great TV series on. I love science fiction, and it was called Picard. And I noticed about Captain Picard on the Star Trek episode, blah blah blah. But they were doing, when the characters were talking one to one, they were using these beautiful, really must have been super long lenses, and the compression was fantastic. Also, that it just was very, very dynamic, where the heads were really big, and this is what long lenses are really, really good for. Just a little recap from yesterday, and really, what is all this about? What am I going on about today, or at this time? It's about extending that client experience. We all know about marketing. We've been told we got to be out there marketing, and of course, marketing is so important. I was just talking to Claire about it just then. We've got to be, but equally, you've got to be out there becoming better at your craft. I would say, coming up with better ideas, better photography. They're very closely linked. And so last night we were talking about basically the three things that I think will give you better ideas. Number one is being culturally engaged, or another way of looking at it being is aesthetically informed, and that means just being really aware of photographs, movies, films, books, whatever it might be, stuff that's going to give you influences. So I strongly recommend that you set aside in your schedules every day at least half an hour to go and seek these things out. Spend time actively engaging in the world around us. The second thing we're going to, and that's part of the process of coming up with ideas, is creative thinking. And I've got the 5 hours of creative thinking, and you can download those. And I've talked about those extensively on the podcast. The third thing is your technical toolkit. And that's what we're looking at tonight and last night and tomorrow. And this is basically your cameras, your lighting, work with your subject, posing, you want to call it that. It's color grading, it's editing, it's all these things that will give you the tools you need to fulfill your ideas. Okay, so without further ado, I've just got a little slideshow to show you. Well, a little reel, I would call it. So let's see if we can get this working. So if I share my screen, and it's only quite short, about a minute long.
Was that digital or film?
That was all film. I can guarantee you that was all film. I
That was
can
your
guarantee you
Hasselblad,
that.
yeah.
Hasselblad, mainly Hasselblad. There's one, part studio, part a little bit on location, but all of it using flash lighting. I started using flash photography pretty much from the get go, really. When I went to university, I studied at Brighton University, and it was a big documentary school of photography or university of photography. And when I mean by documentary, it was the kind of photography I was really into at the time were people like Bruce Gilden, Martin Parr, who I'm sure you know, and then Paul Rees, who I later on went to go and assist as well. And they all used Flash, and I was, the reason I liked Flash is it was just the look of it. It gave I just love the way it gave contrast to images, saturated colors sometimes, but gave you most of all, it gave you the creativity to turn day into night and night into day. And I just love that. That gave you an extra dimension. Of course, later on when I started to work commercially and was shooting in the UK, with the invariable bad weather we had over here, it brought on another dimension. That became about actually just giving some light for the camera. But what I liked about Flash was the look of it, the way it affected a photograph, and also the fact that it opened up a creative doors for me.
So are you predominantly using just one light or several?
Okay, we're going to come into that. Good question.
Right.
We are going to come into that. I would probably say, but I'll get right in one light. Most of those there were done with one light, I would say. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And hard lighting. So, whereas these days, since 2010, and this particular kind of photography that I'm doing recently, branding photography, it tends to be soft lighting. The light that I've lighting myself with here is soft lighting. You can see it's got the shadows. It's hardly you can see here. Look, they see that edge there. That shadow is a very soft shadow, and that's a good way of telling you what kind of lighting it's like. Soft lighting, diffused lighting. Yeah, but basically most of those were done with one light, and I still shoot with one light.
Is that beauty
Okay.
beauty dish
Oh,
mainly?
okay.
Sorry.
Hold on.
That's quite
Hold on.
all
Yeah.
right.
Also, but beauty. Yeah, a beauty dish. A lot of beauty dish. Okay. So when I started off using Flash back in the day of film photography we were talking about, let me tell you, if you're using Flash, it was a commitment. It was a pain in the bum because of the technological factors. The batteries were crap. If you took a kit outside, it was a cold day. The battery, you could see the batteries going down, 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 down really, really quickly. The cables that connected it to the camera were useless, would always be dropping about. You'd actually literally have to hold onto the cable when you're shooting, or put some tape on it or something. The radio transmitters, if you weren't be able to use them, they pick up taxi signals. And if a cab went past, your flash would start firing, and it was like, oh, there's my battery going. So it was, but you had to be quite committed. These days, luckily, things have improved dramatically. In my career, I've used a lot of different makes. Predominantly, all the ones I was just showing you there were shot with ProPhoto, which is really probably the gold standard of lighting. Very expensive, and I didn't own the ProPhoto kits. Basically, if I was doing a job, you'd rent it in from a rental store, and they deliver it, and you can basically then charge the client. So it was another way of actually making a bit of extra money because you put a markup on it. So all good. We're all very happy with that. Anyhow, obviously it didn't last too long. We got to things changed quite rapidly. So I was using ProPhoto. I've also, but I've had my own kits. I've had Bowens, of course, the British Bowens. I've had Met Splash, which was like a big one that went on the side of the on the camera. What else? Broncolor. I've used the Broncolor when I was doing it, assisting on food photography. So all the different ones, but the one I'm going to predominantly talk about today is Godox, which I'm sure you're all very, very aware of. And the reason I'm going to talk about it is because I think they've just incredible value for money, and they've got a massive range. So we're going to start off by, I'm just going to pick it up here. the first we're going to talk about is the good old on-camera flash. This is the Godox V1. Goes on your hot shoe, and you can basically point it in all different directions, and it moves around, and you can bounce it. You can have it direct, whatever particular look that you want. It's also a nice little feature. It does go backwards, so if you've got it on your camera with this side pointing forward, you can bounce it off the back wall, which is quite a nice little feature. I think they're about £200. These about $240. And it's a really good build. The build quality is fantastic, but best of all, it's the battery. The battery, I've used this for all day shooting on events, and it's not even close to running out. It's incredible. I mean, they've got the technology for it. They got it really sorted out. And I believe that our new variations come out where they say they've even made improvements. It's got a round flash head. It makes a little bit of difference, maybe. I wouldn't get too hung up on it. But what I do like about the flash head is it's quite a large flash head. And if you would see my document about flash photography, one of the principles I talk about is hard and soft light. We've already talked about that. But then I always talk about how flash changes quality by depending on the size of the flash head or the modifier you put on it. The bigger the flash, the softer it is. So that's the V1. Yes, is that a question you got there?
Right.
I've got a Pro Photo one of those, and
Yes.
I've got a few bits of Pro Photo, and I'm thinking of selling it all and going Godox. But I just wanted to ask, does it have any accessories that you can put on it?
It does indeed. It has
Use it as like a small third light.
Yeah, it's got different accessories. If you mean something like a diffuser that clips onto it, it's got that, and I do use that, and that is quite nice. It's sort of, it's well, you do get different qualities. Do beware if you're going to buy diffusers on, a cheap one. The diffusion is not so good. I mean, yeah, so you can get a diffuser for it. I think Magmod makes some accessories that fit it as well. But you don't need that much, really. You don't need that much. This will cover a lot of ground. But ultimately, if you want to take the next step up, you want to take it off your camera. Okay, so this is what we're looking at next. And I think this is the beauty of the Godox system, is once you buy into that system, it all talks together. Whereas before I had a Nikon flash or I had this, and it was a pain. It didn't talk together, So then you think that's why if you're starting out, it's a good idea to invest just in one system. So the next bit of the kit is this goes on your camera, and this is the controller. You can basically run 5 different flashes from this, and I think it's got a range of maybe about 100 meters, which is quite phenomenal. And you can basically change or lower each flash power by pressing these different settings here. So you can have 5 flashes, you can have one, over there, you can have one here, and just on your camera, you can raise or lower the power of it. Now, Pro Photo do this, other people do one, but this is like 70, 80 pounds. And it's all these things, it's good to have a spare. So I've got 2. If I break one or lose one, or I drop it, or whatever, I've got a spare. It's that important. So this is why I think the Godox kit is good, is that you can add things to it very easily. You can build up quite a large kit, but not too much of an outlay. And I will be talking a little bit more, Claire, about the Pro Photo compared to the Godox, in my experience. So that goes on your camera, range of about 100 meters, not affected by cabs so much or taxis going by. So it's not going to go bang, bang, bang. So very, very solid. You can have different channels you can arrange it to and all that. So very, very, very useful. So with this, goes in a camera, and then you can have your light then on a stand or wherever it's going to be. Okay. The next bit of Godox one is the AD200, and I think they. Oh, I'm going to focus my camera there. There we go. Went a bit soft focus there. So this, I think they do a massive range. They do different ones as well. But this is what I bought after I bought the V1, and it's got basically, you've got, what's quite nice about this, you've got a choice of different heads you can put on it, as it were. This is a Fresnel one, rather like a traditional flash gun. Or in the kit, you can swap it out for one of these, which is basically like a bare bulb. And what I like about, and this is the way I tend to use it, especially if you're going to use it inside a modifier, like an umbrella, because you want the light to spread around and fill that umbrella. So this, you can imagine, you can see it, it's going to go off in all different directions. So we like that. That's probably more useful than the Fresnel one. You can, of course, it's a Bowens S-type fitting. You can put reflectors on there or whatever you need to reflect some grids, and you can build it up from there. I've seen lots of headshot photographers just use these for doing headshots, and I think they're okay. They lack a bit. For me, the head isn't quite big enough, especially when you get to a big modifier. I don't think it fills it so well as the one I'm going to show you next. But again, fairly inexpensive, and of course, talks to all the different gear. That's the Godox AD200. You can get a 400, 600, and I think they make a tube version of it now, a round version, lots of different choices. But yeah, I tend to use these now as, if I do use them, as like what I'll call accent light. So I might put it in like, not a hair light, but let's say you're doing a scene and you want to accent like a drawer, opening a drawer, and you want to see a light coming out of it, like a little feature light. So they're quite dinky. You can hide them away, and but they're not super powerful.
So do you just buy the unit and then the head swap? Is that you'd have to buy it separate? They just literally come
it comes together. It comes together with it. You get that or that as a choice.
Okay. I mean, you can
interchange
interchange
the
them.
bag, and you can interchange them really easily.
Okay.
Really, really easily. Yeah. Okay, good question. Next, we come up to the really, the meat and potatoes, which is basically, let me show you this one here. Oh, it's a beastie. Okay, it's the Godox. Well, let's get the label round. The AD600 Pro. I've got both. I've got an AD600 and I've got the Pro version as well. I would say if you can afford it, I would go for the Pro. It's a very subtle difference, but with all these things, subtle things make big differences. With the AD, let's just get the cover off here and you'll see it. This is like a little reflector it comes in. So this even makes the flash head even bigger. But what's quite nice about this, let me just get that off there. Yeah. You can see it's quite a big flash head. And it's very similar design to the Pro Photo one in that it's diffused. It's a little bit diffusing here. Really changes the quality of light and gives it a much, in my opinion, a much nicer quality. So, and it's bigger, as I said. So again, it's softer. So it's really, this, in my opinion, is pretty close to the Pro Photo lighting, the B10s or whatever they might be. It's in that ballpark. For a lot less bucks.
And that's battery, yeah?
This is all battery. All the lights I'm showing you are battery-powered lights. All battery. There's the battery. So let's have a look. Let's show you a little accessory that you can actually get with this AD600, the AD range. That makes it just like really, really useful. And it's basically, you can get a bag that separates the battery. There's the battery. This can go in a bag. And that can then go over your shoulder or whatever, or you get your assistant to carry it. And that is connected by this very chunky cable here. And you separate the head from it. What does that mean? This means that if I put this light here, even, which is, I don't know how heavy that is, but it's pretty heavy. Probably, I'm used to it guessing weights. Is it 4 or 5 pounds? I don't know. It's pretty heavy. If you put that on a boom stand, that is going to be a substantial weight when you rack it up high, and it's even going to bend the boom arm. So if that goes over and that hits somebody, it's quite unstable. separating the two, and you get a very long cable with it. Separating the two means that this is super light, and it's not going to, if the stand gets, it's not going to damage anybody or be a health and safety hazard because it's a lot less weight. It also means that, if you've got an assistant, you can carry that around, or you can even just hold the light when you're shooting, and you're going to have a really nice light with that. So if you do go down the Godox range, I think it's a really good investment for about £100, I think it is, to get this separation unit. I can't remember what the number is. Does it say on it? No, it doesn't say anything. Oh, here it is, the H600B. It's a different one for the AD600 to the AD600 Pro. You need two different ones. So again, yeah, I've got it for the AD600. So that's that. Yeah. So basically, let me just get my focus there. There we go. So that's the range of lighting that I work with. It all talks to each other. I've seen reports online about Godox being the color changes, and yeah, I get it. If you're doing photography that is color critical, i.e. food or product photography, you're not going to be doing Godox. It's not going to be good enough for you. You're going to have to go down the broncolor route, which is much more consistent. However, if you're doing what I do, which is photograph people, I do not notice the color change at all. There's many other things that will affect the color of my other photographs besides the flash changing very slightly. So for me, it's not a concern. But if you are doing work, color is critical, and I mean critical from one exposure to the other over a whole day. If that is critical to you, yeah, for sure, that's going to be something that you're going to be looking at, something a bit more stable. Okay, there we go. So that's my guide to lighting and the Godox range. Obviously, to take it further, it's all about ideas. You want to go out there and start using this stuff and practicing it and take it out on location. And outside, inside. It's not just for studio. It really works really well on location. Okay, so then we just come. Any questions on any of that?
I was just going to say the good thing about that when you can separate is that the battery bag can hang on the boom, can't it, and weight it down, I guess.
Exactly right. You can put that on your stand, and it's gonna be like a sandbag type effect. So that's really, another really handy thing about it. There used to be, back in the day, there used to be a lighting called Quantum that did that, which I think they based it on, which is very similar, where they had the light and battery pack was separated by a long cable, and you put it on at the end of a boom. And I remember using that, but it was way more expensive than the Godox, and not as. Yeah, again, it had the battery problem. The batteries, like anything, has just really improved these days, haven't they? In all parts of our lives. But yeah, you can use it as a weight.
So would that last all day, pretty much? That the one that you separate? Would it?
Okay.
I mean, depends how long you shoot, I guess. Obviously, how often.
But it also does bring on to something else I can talk about. I'm just aware time, but why do you need such powerful lights? Okay, I'm asking myself that question. I'm not asking you. I'm asking myself. So why do you need the reason being is first of all, when you're shooting outside, you might have to overcome the sun. So then you do really need super powerful lights. Something like the V1, it will not overcome the sun on a sunny day. Secondly, if you've got lots of spare power, it means you can be shooting at like 8th power. So if you're shooting at 8th power on like a 600 watt head, you're basically that battery will last for a long time. Yes, it will last all day. However, if you've only got like a 200, the smaller one, and you're shooting to get the correct, the F number you need, you might be shooting at half power. You might be shooting at full power. That means the battery is going to go down way quicker. Okay. So and that is the thing that you're always thinking about. So with that in mind, that's why it's worth getting a lot more power than you need. Yeah, to answer that question. Claire.
So Marcus, the AD600, did you say it's not as powerful as or won't last as long as the B1, the Pro Photo?
No, I didn't
Do
say
you?
that, and I wouldn't know.
Oh,
I don't know that, Claire. It lasts a long time, believe me.
that's a long
And
time. Okay.
yeah, look, I mean, what can I say? It's hard to say, isn't it? But again, because I'm only using it on eighth power, because it's 600 watts, and I'm using it on eighth power or maybe quarter
600.
power,
Okay.
that's the difference. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
if you use the 200 and it's on full power, and also when you've got more power and you're on a 600-watt head and you're shooting at eighth power, it recycles quicker. And for me, when I'm shooting, I shoot really, really quick, especially with the client and it's all working well. You want to be shooting quickly and getting those emotions. That's when it really, really, really clicks in. Yeah. But these are great
Yeah.
questions.
It's interesting, and
Okay.
the I have noticed the studio that I use, they have Godox,
Oh,
and I've used Profoto, but they've got Godox there. It's all included in the price, and I definitely have noticed the color changed throughout the day. And I'm shooting portraits, but saying that, in terms of how important that is, because you're not choosing I don't need every single portrait for the value
yeah,
of the
exactly.
cost of the lights. I kind
Yeah.
of think
Yeah.
it still makes sense. Godox seems to make sense.
Yeah, exactly right. Okay, that's the
Single
equation
light.
you're making, isn't it? Ideally, if we had loads of money, we'd be down the pro photo route, 100%. I really would be. But
Yeah. Sorry.
the range as well from Godox is quite incredible. I mean, I haven't talked about modifiers here really, and because we're running out of time, and maybe I might do that I'll do that on another episode. But yes,
Oh, these last and this is the third night of doing it. These last 3 nights, we've been talking about the the idea of ideas and how having good ideas can hopefully lead to more longer term clients and subscription clients. Uh, there's a little philosophy that I follow that really sums this up really well. And it's a Japanese philosophy of living a wholesome life. And you may have heard of it. I'm sure you have. It's called Ikigai. Ikigai, I've got it written down here, it means life value. Okay. So this, and it's a very simple process. And that's what I like about it. There's 4 tenets or 4 sides to it. And you want to get balance in each. The first one is having whatever you do needs to have value to the people who are using it, value to yourself. The second one is going to be you want to be as the best at it or as good as you can be. Let's just say the best because the best sounds good. So value being the best. The third side is you get paid for it. Very important, of course. And the fourth side is that you are good at it. So when I look at that Ikigai principle, I think of the value and the paid side being very much applied to marketing, something that we discuss a lot in photography, how to market your business. But my point I'm trying to make, or hopefully trying to making here, is that the other 2 sides, being really good at something and being the best you can be, is equally as important, and you need to spend time building up those that side to it as well. The first night we talked about cameras and lenses. Then we talked last night about lighting. Tonight I'm going to talk about the actual working with your subject or your model or whatever it might be. When I started off in photography, I was a fashion photographer. That's my early, but I did that for about 10, 15 years. And I was a lecturer in it as well at university, a lecturer in fashion and advertising photography. So I am used to, or was used to working with models. And I noticed that basically when you're working with models and posing them, there's 2 types of model you come across. The first one is one who's maybe what we might call a lifestyle model, not more than a fashion model. And they come in and they're in front of the camera and basically they do not stop moving. They're like, boom, this, posing like that, all very dramatic. And it's a bit annoying. You can't even focus your camera, they're moving so much. So the first thing I have to say to him is, look, please just stop, dial it down. You're at number 10, bring it down to about a number 1 or 2. Just keep it simple. The second type of model, and this is more on the fashion end and probably the more experienced model, possibly, are the ones who would just stand in front of the camera like this or like that and they just looked perfect. They wouldn't even need to move. They were just full of attitude. It was they were looking at the cat. It was all there. And then you might say to them, "Okay, just move a bit to the left," and they go like this, or just really small movements. But every time they move, it's like, "Yeah, that's perfect. That is perfect." And the great thing about those types of models is that, as far as lighting, we were talking about lighting last night, you can use hard lighting because with hard lighting, it's very directional and any small movements will change your feel of it. It's very contrasty. The lighting I'm using at the moment is very diffused. It's soft lighting, and you can see wherever I move my head, it's pretty much the same. The shadows aren't too distracting or too onerous. And in branding photography, this is the time of light that I would tend to use with commercial photography, branding photography, because your clients, they move around. They don't know about these very small movements. So tend to be, as I showed last night in my fashion reel, most of the lighting was hard lighting, very directional. And that works really well with models who are very good at moving very slightly and just accenting their cheekbones or their face or whatever it might be. And then softer lighting, diffused lighting is better, I would say, for working with people who aren't so used to posing. So that being said, let's think about some ideas I'm going to pass on some ideas that I've come up with that are going to help you, hopefully, to work with your models, with your subjects, not models. Well, it could be models. I mean, I have seen on the internet and various photographers, they give posing guides. And I've never really understood how you can use a posing guide because by the time, I don't know, do you flick through it and say, okay, we're going to do that one? Or I don't know, it seems a little bit cumbersome. And also, people have different shapes or different lengths on their arms or necks or whatever, and they might go into those poses or they might be not so flexible. So it seems a rather prescriptive way of doing it. I'm going to show you 3 different ways of working and communicating that I think are going to be a lot more flexible. And the kind of clients I work with and you work with, well, they always say, "Oh, I don't like being photographed." This is going to help. So the first one we're going to talk about is mirroring. That's as in mirroring. I got this idea when I went over to look at the work of Richard Avedon. He had his archive is kept in Texas in Fort Worth, and I was a massive fan. And when I was working in Dallas, I'd nip down to go into Fort Worth to go to his archive, and you can actually. They talk about the really famous project that he did, which was in the American West, which is basically beautiful black and white portraits against a white background, lit naturally by the sun or the north light, and blown up to about 6 foot in the gallery. They're beautiful portraits, and the idea behind this collection in the American West was that there were real people he was photographing, and he talks about this idea of mirroring. And what he did is very clever. He was such a charismatic person, Richard Avedon, that he could get this connection with his subject, his sitter, really quickly. And he would do something that he wanted them to do. So, for example, he would go like this, across his arms, and he wanted them to look a bit sort of tense. And they'd copy him, and they would do it without knowing it. They do it involuntarily. They just do it just like that with everything. That's mirroring at its best. Now, he's obviously a great communicator and he's got great empathy with his subjects. Sometimes that is it's hard to do that, especially when you only work with somebody and they're coming in like for a headshot or whatever, and you've only got five or 10 minutes of working with them. So you might have to just say to the subject, okay, look, I want to do this or do that. Okay, so that's the way you might work it. It's a bit more forced, but it still works. It tells people what you want them. You've got an idea. That is what I want you to do. The second way you can try working with them, and these 3 ways can all be used together, by the way, and they're all different like tools that you'll bring out with different people and may use at different times throughout the shoot. The second one is called what do we call that one? Role play. So role play, as you can imagine, is telling people, imagine you're on holiday, just close your eyes and imagine the feeling of the sun. Or imagine you're having an argument with somebody. Imagine you're really angry, or tell a story, almost like as an actor, the cues you would be given to an actor. And so that can really work well with some people, especially people who like the theatre or like, who enjoy those situations. The third one is the one that I use the most, and it's very simple. I mean, these are all quite simple, but this is the simplest, and it's basically observation. So as soon as my subjects walk into my studio or location, I am fully focused on watching them and seeing everything they do. I notice if they got certain gestures, if they carry themselves in a certain way, how they stand, how they're doing. I'm obviously building it up. I'm going to say to them, stand up straight, be confident, like I'm just did then. Maybe move your shoulder in. But it's basically, if they do something like, for example, they might go. I think, oh, no, well, not that. I said that's not very nice. Yeah. Maybe they might do something like this. Like, oh, you just did that just then. Could you do that again? And they go, what? You did something like that. You go, oh, you mean this? Bang. You got to be ready and you take it. It's and you might see them do two or three different things that you think, and so you build up a little in your brain, your memory. You build a little reservoir of all the things that you've seen that you really liked. So very simple to do, but you've got the trick to that is being really ready with your camera, being, having it focused, maybe certainly not messing around with it, saying, oh, could you do that? And they're, oh, hold on a second, I just got to get my lighting, fix the lighting or whatever. You don't know any of that. You've got to be fully ready and to go and do what they do, and so you can capture it quite quickly. So, and again, actually, just thinking about it, this is worth having this very flat, diffused lighting works really well because people can move in different directions and it's always going to look pretty well lit. So that's just three of the things that I use for when I'm working with my subjects. It's basically, to recap, we've got mirroring, where you either do something and they do it involuntarily, they copy you if you've got good empathy, or you might say, okay, cross your arms like this, put that, or whatever. You could also include in that, thinking about it, a little bit direction. So you might say, well, look towards the light, as opposed to, oh, look over there. They say, where? Look towards the light is a good one, or follow my hand, move around, get their nose to follow your hand and stuff like that. I've seen Peter Hurley, who is, I'm sure you know, and is brilliant at directing people. He's used that one, follow my hand. So we've got mirroring, we've got role play, where you might say, okay, imagine you're doing this, imagine you're in an argument with someone, imagine you're really happy, whatever, or, make a whole story about it. That is really good fun if that suits you. And the third one, observation, where you're basically really hyper focused and looking deeply at what they're doing and remembering everything, and you're really getting into the zone of that one. So all three of them are basically, you're not saying people do this to do that. You're bringing out what's already there. So hopefully they're going to feel more comfortable in front of the camera. Okay, just to wrap up, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about another thing that you can do. Another couple of things I've got actually we're going to talk about music. Now, I'm obviously really into music and it plays a big part in my life. I think most people enjoy music, so it's and I always, when I was on shoots, I'd always have a really nice playlist of music that would have a certain mood. So I'd have like a chill out bit, I'd have like a really energetic piece, and I put these different playlists on. To get the shot I wanted when I was working with models. And I do something similar when I'm working with my branding clients, in that I ask them what kind of music do you like, so they feel at home. I say, oh, do you like, nobody say classical yet. That would be a little bit, I wouldn't know what to put on then, to be honest. But if they say, oh, I like pop or whatever, I say, oh, who? And also that makes a bit of a conversation. So music is great as well. Get them to follow the beat. They can do different moves when you're following the beat and stuff like that, just to make it a little bit more fun. And finally, just to wrap it all up, we're going to talk about just some little props that I do for branding. This little thing that I do, I work with a lot of coaches and motivational speakers. So I've got props that will suit that. So they come in for like a headshot and we're going to do some branded portraits. And I say, well, look, Well, I've got like this. This is one of my favorite, an old-fashioned phone. It's a neutral color. I sometimes spray it down with a bit of matting spray if it's a bit shiny, or don't even worry about it sometimes. And the great thing about these old-fashioned phones is they're really iconic. Oh, I just love holding this. They're really iconic, and you only need to see that part of the phone, and you know exactly what it is. You only need to see that part, and you know exactly what it is. So it's part of our sort of psyche, isn't it? This little prop, and yeah, you can be talking, you can do loads with it, wrap the cord around, do lots of silly stuff over here. And then, sorry, the other prop I got is one of these I got from on the internet, very cheap, on a few quid, but yeah, it's a ladder. So this is a great one. Again, for doing branded portraits, you could say, okay, and then you can leave some space, have a little bit of a message, but type here, them talking into the, yeah, look, nice angles on there. Okay, it's white. It's not probably the greatest. Maybe a red one might be a bit better or something, or an off-white one. It's a bit, you can see it's a bit funny with the light, but you get the idea. There you go. That's the end of it. Now, on to some serious stuff. I've got a workshop coming up. I've got a 2-day workshop coming up, which I'd love to see some of you at. It's going to be in Bristol. It's at the end of September, the 23rd and 24th of September. And it's going to be 2 full-on days talking about lots of the things we talked about on this little webinar, plus loads of extra. We're going to get in some practical demonstrations, some lighting demonstrations, talking about how to really dial it down with your branded clients, lots of different stuff. So I'll be sending out, or you can contact me and you can see some details for that. Okay, thank you very much.